Hi guys, so today I'm going to be teaching you how to play Star Wars Armada. If you've never played this game before, this is a great place to start. I'm going to be going over everything that comes in the core set, teaching you how to play with everything that comes in the core set, as well as introducing you to other things that are available for the game. If you're brand new here, this is a great place to start as well because I have a ton more videos on Star Wars Armada as well as other FFG Star Wars games, so make sure you subscribe and click the bell for alerts so you don't miss out on any new content. So let's dive right into this game. Star Wars Armada is a tactical miniatures game of space fleet-based combat where you're going to build a fleet and bring it up against somebody else's fleet. The core set comes with 1 Victory class Star Destroyer and 6 TIE Fighters, and it also comes with a Nebulon B, a CR-90A, and 4 X-Wings. It allows you to take control of either the Empire or the Rebellion and go against a friend. Now, this type of scenario here, what it comes with is pretty balanced between the Empire and the Rebellion, but it's an expandable game. There are many types of expansions that you can get for this game to add to your fleet. A full game is played at 400 points, and what that means is each ship has a point value, and every upgrade you add to it and every TIE Fighter or X-Wing or other squadrons that you add have a point value. And once you've amassed 400 points, you're ready to bring your fleet against somebody else's for a standard game, which is 400 points. However, it's important to know that you can play at any point value. You don't have to increase up to 400 points. If you play with just what comes in the core set, you're looking at something around a 180 point game, somewhere in there. Now that being said, this is a great way to get started with the game, but before you learn how to play completely, we're going to talk about the cards. We're going to look at those, what they actually mean, because every ship has a reference card that gives you all of its details and stats. We're also going to look at the squadron cards. We're going to look at how you play the game, the different tools that come with it, how you move, how you shoot, how you measure range, the dice, the way everything works. So let's take a look at the cards. So over here we have a Victory 2 Star Destroyer card. Now this card represents one possible configuration of your Victory 2 class Star Destroyer. There's also a Victory 1, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but basically every ship in the game has 2 versions of the way it can be fielded. And we're going to take a look from the top to the bottom. So right here it means it's an Empire. That Empire symbol means that the Empire runs this ship. There's the name. Over here we have the hull. This is how many damage cards it can take, how many pieces of damage it takes before it's destroyed. 8 hull is relatively high. Over here we have what's called an anti-squadron die. And this means it will roll 1 blue die every time it's attacking squadrons. All right, and the squadrons in this game are like X-Wings, TIE Fighters, and the small fighter craft. Right here has the different defense tokens that it can accept, and this is showing that it has 1 brace and 2 redirects. So let's talk about defense tokens. Defense tokens are going to go right next to the ship, okay? And defense tokens are a way that you defend against attacks. In this game, there are no defense dice. When that means when you're getting attacked, you don't get to roll to see if you can mitigate the damage. It's more strategic than that. So every ship has defense tokens, and you can choose to potentially flip one of these over to use it and mitigate that damage somehow. So what do? Well, brace is the first one I'm going to talk about. Brace, when you flip this over, you're reducing your damage that's incoming from one particular attack by half, rounded up. So a 4 damage attack will be reduced to 2, a 5 damage attack will be reduced to 3, because 2.5 rounded up would be 3. And when it's flipped over to the orange side, that means it's exhausted. You can, however, still use it again, but if you use an exhausted defense token, it is now gone for the game. The reason that that's important is because at the end of each turn, all exhausted tokens are going to flip back over. So if you can manage to only use 1 per round and not have to use them twice, then you'll have them around for the rest of the game. However, if it's going to save your life and you've got to use 1 twice in a round, then it'll be gone. The next one is called Redirect. Now we have 2 Redirect tokens. Now Redirect allows you to take some of the incoming damage and shift it to an adjacent side that still has shields. So for example, if I have all of my shields on the front and all of my shields on the side, and I have maybe 6 damage coming in, I can take some of that damage. Maybe I want to redirect 3 of it to the adjacent side. So I'll spend a redirect token and I'll put 3 damage on the shields to my right, and then I'll take the remaining 3 damage to shields to the front. It's important to know that damage that goes to your shields will not go onto your hull. Remember I said you can only take, for example on this ship, 8 points of damage before you're blown up. Well, damage that goes to your shields doesn't count towards that. And so that's what we use damage cards for. Any damage that gets through shields will be turned into damage cards. And now you have 2 redirect tokens on this guy. And what that means is that if for some reason you spend 1, but you can get shot again and you want to redirect some more, you can spend a different one. It's important to know that you can only spend 1 token of the same type on an attack. So I could not send 3 damage to one side and then send 3 damage to another side. Not on the same attack, on 2 different attacks, because over a long game you'll get attacked multiple times. I could do that. You can, however, spend multiple different types. So I could reduce your damage by half, maybe send a 4 damage I could reduce to 2, and then I could redirect that same 2 damage to another side. But they have to have shields available. Next up is the speed. Now the speed is important because it's going to be using this thing we call the maneuver tool. And what the maneuver tool does is it allows us to determine a number of clicks. As you'll see here, I'm missing my speed 0, but we have speed 1, speed 2, speed 3, and speed 4. And if we're going to move at speed 1, we can potentially click 1 and click 2. And our speed, and we're going to do that more when we actually demonstrate speed, but this shows us how many clicks we can have. So it's not the number 1, it's a tick mark. So at speed 1, we could potentially move this 1 click. If we were at speed 2, we would get, the dash means 0 ticks, so we would not get any clicks at the first marker, but we could get 1 at the second marker. So the Victory Star Destroyers are not very maneuverable. There are other ships that have more than 1 tick in each speed marker. This also means that we cannot go to speed 3 or 4. It's also worth noting that ships can potentially reduce to speed 0, even though that's not shown. But if you go to speed 0, it means you cannot spend any of your defense tokens. I also want to talk about some other types of defense tokens that you will see in the game. This one right here is called Scatter. Scatter will allow you to completely get rid of all dice results. It's very, very powerful. So it stops all damage, like a complete miss. There's also Evade. What Evade does is that does different things at different ranges. At long range, which is this thing here that we use to measure. This is our range guide. If we're at a long range attack, in other words, somebody's shooting us from far away, we can spend this to cancel 1 die. If they're shooting us at medium range, then we can spend this to force them to re-roll 1 die. And if we're at close range, this will do nothing. And the last one is called Contain. Contain will stop critical effects. It will stop the default critical effect when we spend this one. So what this means is that if somebody rolls critical damage on us, which I'll explain once I get into combat, then if a ship has a Contain, it can spend this to stop any of those damage cards from being flipped face up, because that's what critical damage will do. Alright, so going back up here up to the top, we have the command, basically our stats. We have command, squadron, and engineering values for our ship. The Star Destroyer has command 3, which means it's going to have 3 command dials assigned to this ship. Let's look at a command dial, shall we? Because we need to talk about commands. There are 4 commands in this game, and we use this to plan out ahead of time. So, for example, I could select an engineering command, or a navigation command, a squadron command, or a concentrate fire command. And I would set all of these at the beginning of the game after we've deployed forces. And the idea is I have to plan ahead. So let's say I did concentrate fire, squadron, and then engineering. I'll place those on top of my ship at the start of the round. When I go to activate this ship, when it's my turn, and I go to activate this ship, I'm going to reveal its top command dial and say it's doing this command. And then it will activate, and it will do that command. And then when it's done, at the end of the round, we start the next round, I'm going to set a different command, or maybe the same one, and put it on the bottom of the stack. So you have to plan 3 turns ahead. And that's meant to reference that this is a large ship, and if whoever's in command of this ship has to tell people what to do. And because it takes a while for word to travel, like, hey, we need more power to the engines. Well, by the time that message gets down to engineering, and by the time they do it, you have to plan farther ahead. And that's how what this reflects. A smaller ship might have less command dials, meant that they're more efficient at getting things done. So this means we have to assign 3 command dials. Speaking of command dials, let's talk about command dials. We're going to talk about what commands are. We have a squadron of 3, which is going to reference commands, and an engineering value of 4, which is also going to reference commands. So let's talk about commands. Squadrons, those are the little TIE fighters, right? When you do a squadron command, this allows you to activate squadrons up to your squadron value. Now, for this guy, he has a squadron value of 3. So this means he could activate 3 squadrons and make them move and attack. And they don't have to be in that order. They could attack and move, or move and attack. So this is good because normally squadrons will activate at the end of the round after all the ships have gone, but they can only move or attack. So the benefit by doing this is, for one, you get to do them early, and for 2, you get to both move and attack, which is great if somebody's out of range. Or potentially you attack and blow somebody else up before they can shoot you back. And so a Star Destroyer is good for that because it can launch, or it can activate 3 squadrons. Also, there are tokens. If you reveal a command and you decide you don't want to do that command at this time, maybe you planned out incorrectly, you can say, I'm going to take a token instead of using the command. And you'll get to put, and for every command there's a token. And tokens do a lesser effect. And so I'm going to talk about what the tokens do at the same time I'm talking about commands. So if you have a squadron token, you can still spend this token as a command, but this will only give you 1 extra squadron. So if you had, for example, a squadron command that would give you 3, or you can spend the token, which would give you 1. When you're doing a command, you can actually do the dial and the token together if you have one left over from a previous turn. So I could spend both of these together to potentially activate 4 squadrons, which is very nice. And once you spend the token, it's gone. All right, so let's talk about the next command. Concentrate Fire. Concentrate Fire is an offensive command that when you're attacking, it lets you roll 1 extra die of any type that's in your attack pool. The Concentrate Fire token allows you to re-roll 1 die that's in your attack pool. So not quite as good as adding an extra die, but it gives you something. This one is particularly nice because it can be any type of die you roll. If you rolled blue and red dice, you could add another red or another blue. The next command is Engineering. The Engineering command allows you to make repairs to your ship. And to do that, you reference the engineering value on your ship. So this ship's engineering value is 4. And what that means is you're going to get 4 engineering points. And there's 3 different things you can do with engineering. For 3 points, you can get rid of a damage card. If I've got damage cards assigned to my ship, I can get rid of them, or get rid of 1 for 3 points. For 2 points, I can regenerate a shield that's been lost. And for 1 point, I can transfer a shield from maybe the back to the front or the side to the side. And I can spend those in any combination as long as I have enough points. So if, for example, I could potentially get rid of get a shield back on the front and a shield back on the side, or I could redirect one from the rear to the front and then get rid of a damage card. Any combination. An engineering token will give you half of your engineering value rounded up. So in this case, it would give me 2 engineering points. And like all the other tokens, I could spend them at the same time. So I could potentially get 6 engineering points, which would be enough for 3 shields or 2 damage cards or any other permutation that would fit within 6 engineering points. And our last command is Navigation. Navigation is important because I talked about speed. Well, when you deploy, you're going to set a starting speed for your ship. And you're going to use this fancy little speed tool. And you can do 1, 2, 3, 4, or 0, right? But when you deploy at the start of the game, you have to choose one of the speeds that you have listed on your ship. You cannot deploy at speed 0. So in the case of the Victory, I would have to start at either speed 1 or speed 2. 3 and 4 aren't even available, so you can't choose those. So let's say I started out slow, and I wanted to go to speed 1. Well, I have to keep moving at speed 1. A big object in motion stays in motion in space, right? Now, if I did a navigation command, I could do 2 things. I could increase my speed, or I could adjust my speed by 1, so I could either slow down to speed 0 or increase to speed 2, and I could get 1 extra click anywhere on my movement tool. So normally at speed 2, I would get no clicks at 1 and then 1 click at 2. If I had a nav command and I increased to speed 2, I could either take an extra click at 2, or I could take the extra click at 1, where I normally didn't have one. Or I could go the other way around. If I have a nav token, it lets me just adjust my speed, and I can use it in conjunction with this to potentially go from speed 0 all the way up to speed 2. But this does not let me have an extra click, or otherwise called yaw. Now we're going to look at the ship section of this card. We're going to have front, rear, left, and right sections on the card, and that's going to be reference these different sections that you see outlined on the ship base itself. And for our front section, this is going to show us what type of dice we roll. We have 3 red dice and 3 blue dice in our front armament. And what that means is we can roll up to 6 dice when we attack, normally. This is our range ruler. And so everything from here to here is considered a close range attack. And this means that both blue, red, and black dice can be rolled at close range. This ship doesn't have any black dice, so we wouldn't roll any black dice. But this means it can roll everything it has available. Right here we have medium range. This means that blue and red dice can both be rolled at medium range. Note that at medium range you're outside of black dice range. So a ship that has a lot of black dice, like the Victory 1, has black dice in its armament. And that's one of the differences between the 2 different versions of Victories. Black dice can't reach out to medium range, so a ship that has black dice has to be close. Think of black dice as a shotgun, for example. And then at long range, we have only the red symbol here, which means red dice only can reach out to long range. So blue dice do not work at long range. The difference between the dice is a little different for each one. So I'm going to start with red dice. Red dice have critical symbols on them, and they also have hits, but they also have a single side that has a double hit, and they have one side that has an accuracy, and they have 2 sides that have a blank. So the red dice are a little bit unreliable because they have 2 blanks, which could do nothing. But there's always that chance where you get that double hit, which is very, very nice. The blue dice are the most reliable because they have no blank sides. And they have accuracy. They have 2 accuracies. Accuracies will actually stop somebody from being able to spend one of their defense tokens for this attack. So when you roll an accuracy, you can say, all right, I'm going to target your brace with my accuracy. And that means it's not even available to them, this attack, which is really, really nice. However, because blue dice are more reliable, they also don't have any sides that have double damage. So you're not going to get as much damage out of your blue dice. So you're trading off consistency for potential output. And now your black dice. The black dice have 2 blanks as well. You have 1 blank on that side. And now your normal dice won't be as sparkly as this. I'm using special dice that I've gotten from tournaments right now. But basically, your black die will have 2 blanks, but also has 2 sides that have both a hit and a crit. So you're not going to be able to get those accuracies with black dice. So you're going to be at, so whoever you're shooting is going to be able to brace or spend their defense tokens. But you're also getting a lot higher yield because of the 2 double damage sides on the black dice. So you have kind of the best chance of actually rolling damage with a black die, but it's the hardest to actually get through because for 1 you have to be close, and for 2 you're not going to get the accuracies on this die. However, if you have all 3 colored dice in your armament, you'll be able to roll a combination, and you'll be able to roll all of them and try to get the best of each. So that's showing us what's in our front armament. If we're shooting out of the side, we don't necessarily have the same cannons pointed sideways that we do pointed forward. So out of our side arc, we only have 2 red and 1 blue, and that's the same for either side arc. And out of our rear arc, we only have 2 red. So a Victory Star Destroyer is most powerful out of its front side. Same thing goes with these numbers here. This is our number of shields. If you'll notice, the ships have a shield dial on them, and you don't have to mark these with tokens or anything because it's built into the ship. So our ships will have shields right here on them, and as they take damage, they will go down to 2, and then 1, and then 0. And then once that happens, any damage that comes through on that side will go to hull, and we'll use those damage cards to represent that. So this represents our starting shields and also our maximum shield value. So you can't ever go higher than your starting shield value. So if my shield value is 3 here, then I can never have more than 3. Now in the rear, my shield value is only 1. So if you'll notice, for the Victory Star Destroyer, it kind of has a weak spot. You want to stay out of its front arc, and you want to try to get around to the rear. Next to this, I have an upgrade card. This one particularly is my commander. Every fleet will have a commander, and that commander will offer a fleet-wide benefit to all ships in your fleet. And they all do something different, and they represent somebody else taking command of the battle. In the case of Grand Moff Tarkin, he gives all of your ships at the start of each ship phase a token of your choice. So you could say, all of my ships are going to get an engineering token. Now, in the core game, you're only going to get a Victory Star Destroyer, so you're only going to get 1 ship, so it doesn't take advantage of him terribly, but the more ships you add to your fleet, the more ships will get Tarkin's extra free token. And that is very nice, especially if you combine it with whatever dial you are using. Next up, we have squadrons. So right here we have the TIE Fighter Squadron, and this is for all of our generic TIE Fighters. You only need one card for each TIE Fighter. So I'm going to put about 5 of them here. And you have our artwork at the top. Obviously it's Imperial, it's a TIE Fighter Squadron, but here we're going to have its speed. So the first number is its speed. So one of the things we're going to do is we're going to flip this rangefinder over, and now this is the squadron side. If you'll notice, we have different numbers, and the distance from 0 to 1 is actually a little bit more than the distance to 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. So they're all slightly different. But yes, so speed 4 means that these guys can potentially go from here all the way up to 4, and that's how far that they can move. The next option is their hull. That's how many hits they can take until they're dead, and this is marked on the squadron themselves right there, and then you pick them up. So a lot of stuff is on the actual hardware itself, so there's a lot less stuff that you need to keep track of with tokens. Next here we have 2 different armaments. This first one is how many dice you roll when you're attacking other squadrons. So if the TIE Fighter is attacking an X-Wing, he's going to roll 3 blue dice. And the way that works is you're going to roll your dice, and you're only going to count hit symbols. Whenever squadrons are attacking, you only count hit symbols. You don't count criticals. Criticals only apply to when capital ships attack capital ships. And now the red armament here, the red symbol, means that when it's attacking a ship, or in the case of, and a lot of times people get confused when you say ship because we think of an X-Wing and a TIE Fighter as a ship also. But in Star Wars Armada, the only things that are considered ships are these guys right here. These guys are always considered squadrons. So if you're attacking a capital ship, think a capital ship, you're going to roll 1 blue die. And again, you're only going to count it if it's a hit. So accuracies and crits aren't going to do you much. Although you still could spend an accuracy if you had multiple dice. But a single accuracy isn't going to matter because you won't have any damage going through. All right. Now we have a unique TIE Fighter Squadron. And this one is Howl Runner. I missed also we have Swarm, which is an ability that all the TIE Fighters have. And what it says is while they're attacking a squadron engaged with another squadron, you can re-roll 1 die. And what engaged means is that they are close to each other. How close, you ask? Well, I'm glad you asked. If we are within range 1 of the other ship, we will be considered engaged. And we will use that, well, we will measure with this token right here. So if these 2 ships were this far away, or let's say they were that far away, they would be just beyond range 1. If they were close enough like that on the map, they would be considered engaged. Now, Howl Runner is a unique TIE Fighter Squadron. Also, I want to point out that I've painted my TIE Fighters. They will actually come in just a gray plastic, but I painted mine a little bit, so they're not going to look exactly like mine. But Howl Runner can be, you'll notice that her base has a little picture of Howl Runner. That's how you can tell her apart. So she's unique, and the little dot means you can only have 1 Howl Runner in your fleet. However, you can have as many TIE Fighters as you want. She is also a TIE Fighter Squadron, and she also has the same speed, she has the same hull, and she happens to have the same armaments that the regular TIE Fighters do as well. Sometimes you will notice, though, that a unique squadron will have different armaments. Maybe they have upgraded weapons. She also has the Swarm keyword, but she also has a special ability as well. While another friendly squadron with Swarm at distance 1 is attacking a squadron, it may add 1 blue die to its attack pool. So basically, she allows all of the nearby TIE Fighters to roll an extra blue die when they're attacking X-Wings. Very, very nice. She has Swarm herself, but her keyword says another friendly, so it has to be somebody else than her. The cool thing about unique squadrons is they also have their own defense tokens. So Howl Runner, when she is being shot, she can potentially scatter and cancel all dice results. So it's actually, she's very hard to hit. Or if you do hit her, maybe maybe you had an accuracy and you targeted her scatter, she could then brace and cut the damage in half. So even though she's only got 3 hull, it's hard to get those 3 damage onto her. Now we're going to look at the Rebel cards. I'm going to start with our CR-90A. This is a Corvette A. This is the Corellian Corvette that you see at the beginning of Star Wars A New Hope. A very recognizable ship. You're going to notice a couple of differences here. First off, this ship only has the hull value of 4, which means it's very fragile. This ship is can be potentially killed in 1 shot. It also has a blue armament when it's attacking a squadron. It has 2 evades and a redirect. So this one relies more on staying at long range and canceling dice results than actually, it doesn't have a brace, so it can't actually cut down the damage in half. So it doesn't want to get shot that much because it could die very easily. It has a lot more versatility when it comes to its speed, though. If you notice at speed 1, it can do 2 clicks. And at speed 2, it can do 1 click and 2 clicks. And at speed 3, so at speed 4, it can potentially go nothing here, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it can, you can make very detailed turns. And if you add a navigation in there till you get another free click, you can do all kinds of interesting maneuvers. So this is the most maneuverable ship, and also the fastest because it can go all the way up to speed 4. Has a command value of 1, which means it only gets a single dial. So you can set this every turn to be exactly what you're going to need it to be. If you think you're going to shoot, maybe you'll do concentrate fire. If you really want to slow down, you can do nav or whatever you want to do. Squadron value of 1, it can't really command that many squadrons. An engineering value of only 2, so it has a harder time making repairs. We have 2 red and 1 blue die in the front, a red and a blue in the sides, and only 1 red in the back, so much less dice than the Star Destroyer. And then also there are less shields to go around. One thing I forgot to talk about is the very bottom with the Victory Star Destroyer. We're going to look at the points. The Victory was 85 points. This one is only 44. So while this is much weaker than the Victory 2 Star Destroyer, it's also half the price, or about half the price. So that's important to know because remember I said this is a 400-point game if you're playing in sanctioned or organized play. Or whatever you would agree to play somebody at. I've played all kinds of different point games. I've played 200-point, 300-point, 400-point, 800-point games. I've played a lot. So that, as long as the point is that you're playing the same points as your opponent. So this way you have a balanced game. And then the bottom here represents different upgrades as well. So the different symbols, you can play these upgrade cards on there. So let's say, for example, we're playing a 400 game and I'm only at 390 points. Well, then I can add an upgrade. I might want to play enhanced armament on this ship, which matches that symbol. So I can put one of these on there, and it's going to increase my my army value by 10. And this is going to do something special to this ship. In this case, it would increase the battery armament on the left and right side by 1 red die. Some other types are gunnery team that let you attack twice out of the same arc, but I don't have that one, so I can't take that. That's the weapons team. The Victory can take this one though, however. So that's the way upgrade cards work. And you're going to get a couple of upgrade cards in the core set, but they're more for like a slightly advanced, once you've played a game or two, and then you might want to try putting some upgrades on. Next I have the Nebulon B escort frigate. The Nebulon B is a little bit more kind of in the middle of the road. It definitely has its strong and weak spots. So let's talk about this Nebulon B. We have a hull value of 5, which is a little bit stronger than the other two. Now the escort frigate has 2 blue dice in its battery armament, so when it is attacking a squadron, it will roll 2 blue instead of just the 1. So it has a much better chance to actually hit squadrons. It could potentially hit them for 2 damage. The Nebulon B has a single evade and 2 braces, so different scenario over here with what he has available to him. He can go up to speed 3 and has 2 clicks at speed 3, so when he's going fast, he actually gets the ability to turn a little bit better. He has a command of 2, which means he'll have 2 command dials. He has a squadron value of 2, which means he can command 2 squadrons, and an engineering value of 3. So he's very much in between these 2 ships as far as relative power. He costs a little bit more too. He costs 57. Now, one thing that's nice is his front hull zone is his strongest side. He's much weaker on the sides though. So the front hull zone has 3 red dice, and that means he can attack just as strong as the Victory Star Destroyer if he's at long range, considering the Victory also has 3 red dice. But as you get closer, the Victory would have those blue, and you don't have any blue in here to back that up. So at long range, he's almost the same. He also has 3 shields in the front, but the sides are going to be his weak spots because he's only got 2 dice on the sides, a red and a blue, and only 1 shield on those sides. And he has no way to redirect that damage because he can only reduce damage. He can't redirect it. He doesn't have a redirect. So that's interesting. And he's got 2 on the rear. So the sides are the weak points of this ship, but he's also going to be our flagship carrying General Dodonna. Remember I said each side is going to have a commander. And those commanders also have point costs. But General Dodonna's ability, what he gives to my entire fleet, is before an enemy ship is dealt a face-up damage card, you can look at the top 4 cards of the damage deck and place one of them, and use one of them and put the others on top of the deck. So he kind of, when I get critical damage going through, you get to flip the card over, and it can have all kinds of nasty effects. critical damage. You know, every card has something else like, oh, blinded gunners, or damaged controls, or life support failure. And there are all kinds of interesting things that can potentially hurt you, may stop you from attacking at long range, may cause you to not be able to have command tokens anymore, all kinds of bad things. In general, Dodonna kind of lets you pick from the top 4. Now let's look at the X-Wings. Our X-Wings are going to have, I mean, again, like the TIE Fighters, we only need 1 card for however many X-Wings we have, as long as they're just basic X-Wings. They're going to be Rebellion only, and they're going to be X-Wing squadrons. They have a speed of only 3, so they're not as fast as the TIE Fighters, but they're stronger because they have 5 hull, so they can take more shots, because that's represented by the fact that X-Wings are a tougher, more rugged design. They have a couple of interesting keywords. First off, they have a squadron armament of 4, so they would actually get to roll 4 blue dice when they're attacking TIE Fighters or any other enemy squadron. And against ships, they will roll a red die. The red die is interesting because it has more chance of blanks, but you also have that double hit or crit. Now, normally I told you squadrons don't use crits, right? Well, they have a keyword called Bomber, and Bomber allows them to actually resolve critical effects and counter crits when they're attacking ships. So they can actually count those crits. So X-Wings are actually very nice against ships. They also have a keyword called Escort, and Escort basically doesn't do a whole lot in the core game, but Escort's important as you add on. So basically, squadrons that you're engaged with cannot attack squadrons that lack Escort. So if we had a weaker squadron that did not have, maybe a shuttle or something like that, that didn't have Escort, the enemy TIE Fighters would have to attack the Escort first before they could go on to the rest. Considering that we all have Escort, it kind of cancels itself out because we don't have anybody to protect. But that's going to be the thing, is there's more squadron packs, and you're going to get more squadrons that don't have Escort, like B-Wings or Y-Wings. Maybe you want the X-Wings to protect your Y-Wing bombers, and that's one thing they're very good at. Now, next we have Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker is one of the most awesome squadrons in the game, so he's leading his squadron of X-Wings here. Now, Luke Skywalker has actually different stats on the top. He still has 3 speed and 5 hull, and he still has 4 blue against squadrons, but against ships he has a black die. Now that's particularly nasty because of the fact that he has Bomber. And remember, I told you a black die has 2 sides that have a crit and a hit. Well, if he rolls that, he's doing a critical and a regular damage, so he's doing 2 damage with 1 die, and there's 2 of those on the black die. You have a pretty good chance of getting it. And you add his keyword or his ability. He still has Bomber and Escort, but he also has this special ability that says, while attacking a ship, treat the defender as having no shields. So his critical damage isn't going to go to shields. It's going to go straight through the shields and turn into damage cards on the enemy ship. So Luke Skywalker is extremely, extremely powerful. He also has 2 braces. So when he gets shot, he doesn't have scatter like Hellrunner does, but he has multiple chances to brace and reduce that damage. So he can try to stay alive for a very, very long time. So when you're starting a game of Armada, one of the things you're going to notice is that there's certain setup rules. Normally you play on a 3x6 mat, which is 2 3x3 mats laid side by side, or a 3x6 surface, but you can play a casual friendly game on any flat surface. But the bigger the better, because it gives you more opportunity to maneuver around. So one of the rules is that you want to be at least distance 5 from the edge. So we'll mark this, and we'll put our little marker out here. And you want to be at least within 3 of your side. So we kind of use these little markers to kind of help mark us the setup area. And just for purposes here, I'm going to say that the setup area is right there, assuming that 5 from the edge was over here. It's actually a little bit longer than that, but I can't fit it all on camera. So this would be basically where I could deploy. And we start off going back and forth, and both players on both sides of the map will do this. If I'm the rebel player, first thing I'm going to do is I have to deploy a ship. So I would choose my CR-90A, and I can put him anywhere in here. I don't want him facing this way. And I'm going to set him on the board within that zone, and I will then pick a starting speed for him. And maybe I'll say he wants to start off going kind of fast, but not too fast, and I'll start him at speed 3. And so he's going there, he's starting at speed 3. Then it'll be up to the Imperial player to go. Maybe the Imperial player will deploy his Victory Star Destroyer all the way over there. And then it goes back to me. Now once I have a ship on the board, I can either deploy another ship, or I can deploy 2 squadrons. If I've got only 1 squadron, then it has to be the very, very last thing I do. So I can deploy 2 squadrons. When I deploy 2 squadrons, they have to be at distance 2 or closer. So I can deploy 2 X-Wings right out here. This means they came out of they were launched or came out of hyperspace with me. Now the Imperial player will go. The Imperial player has no more ships, so he's just going to deploy 2 TIE fighters. Now I'll go, and maybe I want to deploy my Nebulon B over there, and he's going to deploy at speed 1. He wants to start slow. And then the Imperial player will go. He'll deploy Howlrunner and another squadron right there, and then it'll go back to me, and I'll deploy my last 2 X-Wings. And then the Imperial player gets the last 2 TIE fighters. And now we're deployed and ready to start the game. The game is going to play over 6 turns, and we'll alternate going back and forth. Whoever is the first player is going to be first the entire game. And that's going to be determined by whoever has the less points. If it's a complete tie for points, like if we're playing an 800-point game and I came with 799 and you came with 800, I'll get to choose if I want to be first or second player. And first player has a tremendous advantage, but second player has an advantage when it comes to objectives. There are objective cards that come once you've played a couple of games. You should check out objective cards because they're going to make each game give you some extra category or way that you can win. Because it's not always about blowing each other up. If you're not playing with objective cards, you can do the simple where you alternate back and forth. One turn I'll be first player, the next turn you'll be first player. And whoever has the least points can choose if they want to be first on the first turn or on the second turn. And you'll alternate back and forth so everybody gets that chance to shoot first. So once that's done, we're going to start round 1, and we play over 6 rounds. We're going to set all of our dials based on where deployment is. I'm like, oh, he's right there, so maybe I want to speed up, and so I'm going to choose and navigate for my CR90 to go first. And then we're going to start the actual game. Now I've jumped forward a little bit because usually the first couple of turns of a game involve ships just moving into engagement range and not any actual combat. So I've moved some of these ships a little bit closer so we can get some turns to represent what actual combat might just look like. So I'm going to say that the Rebel player is going first, and they're going to choose to activate their Nebulon, and they reveal a squadron command. Now this means that they can resolve their command. But now there's timing, and this is what I'm going to show you guys. There's a certain timing in which these commands go. If I wanted to take a token, as soon as I reveal the command, I could say, you know what, I want to take the token instead. In this case, I think I will want to activate the squadrons. So for squadron and engineering commands, those are going to happen right away. So you'll do either one of those first, whichever one you have queued up. After that's done, then you have the opportunity to shoot. Now, every ship can shoot out of 2 different arcs. I could make a shot out of my front arc and a shot out of my side arc. Because I can't hit anything with my side arc, and we'll measure and basically line our tool up to this line. I don't have anything in my side arc there, and I don't have anything in my side arc here. This Nebulon may only have a front shot. So what we'll do is we'll measure this and see if we have it. And we do have just barely a long-range shot on that Victory Star Destroyer. So that means I'll be able to roll red dice. But before I get to the attack step, I'm going to have to resolve my squadron command, and I have a squadron value of 2, which means I can hit 2 squadrons that are within medium range of me. Which, because medium range goes out to this second line here, that means I can hit any of these squadrons. So what I will do is I will activate this guy. We measure, because he's got only speed 3. So he can fit right in there, he's within that, and I flip his little switch. And the reason we flip these switches, I'm going to show you this one right here, is to indicate that they've already gone. And you're going to keep track of that with your little round tracker of whether you're on a red turn or a blue turn. And that's it, so we don't end up triggering the same squadron twice. So he's going to move up there. He's now engaged with these 2, and he's going to attack this closest TIE fighter. So he'll roll 4 dice, and he got 2 hits, an accuracy, and a crit. Well, an accuracy isn't going to do anything because this TIE fighter doesn't have any defense tokens, and the crit is going to go away. So he'll roll 2 damage on that TIE fighter. And the reason he got to move and shoot is because we activated him with a squadron command. And then the other one will be this guy, and he'll go up here, and he's going to attack the same TIE fighter, and he'll roll 4 dice, and he got no hits, 2 crits and 2 accuracies. Now, each blue die has 4 hits, and then 2 accuracies and 2 crits. So you have a 50-50 shot. So he actually did very unlucky there. So that was his squadron phase. Now, or I'm sorry, his command, he did his squadron command. Now he can shoot, and then he'll move. So we already measured that he has long range to the front of that Star Destroyer. So I'll roll 3 red dice. And we rolled an accuracy and 2 critical hits. So I can use my accuracy to target the brace for the Victory Star Destroyer and say that he can't use that. So only thing the Victory Star Destroyer can do is spend 1 evade to turn that over, and he can redirect those 2 damage to the side. And maybe he'll put those on this side right here. Well, we should be at full shields. So basically, he's going to redirect the damage from here and put them to an adjacent side. He can't put them on the back, and there have to be shields available for him to put them. And normally you don't pick ships up like that, but I'm doing it just to show you. Now that I've shot and all that's done, it's time for me to move. Now my current speed is 1, so I have to move at speed 1. And the way we do that is with this tool, we're going to lock this part in right to their base right there. And I have to do my clicks beforehand. So sometimes I'll do that, or if you're doing an extra click, you'll do it like that. And so you can kind of hold it up above, but once you lock it into the plastic, you're committed to that turn. So I'm going to go ahead and turn left a little bit, and I'm going to go like that. The reason I would do that is maybe I think the Star Destroyer is coming this way, and I want to still have a front shot on him next turn. The problem is I think I might have just exposed my weak size to him. So now the Victory Star Destroyer gets to go, and he is also going to do a Squadron Command. So the Squadron Command is going to be interesting here, because he can activate 3 squadrons with that command. So he is going to check for range, because you have to be within range, medium range, and he can hit all of these guys. First thing he's going to hit is this TIE fighter here, and he will attack one of the X-Wings with, what is that, 3 dice, and is he close enough to Howl Runner to get her benefit? He is just out of range of Howl Runner, so he only gets 3 dice. But he does get swarmed, so he gets a reroll because this guy's engaged with another squadron. So he rolled 3 damage. So he actually got 3 damage on the X-Wing. So we'll mark that. So he's down 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay. And now, but he can't move because he's engaged. And that's the other thing that engaged means, is that when somebody's near you, you can't attack a ship and you can't fly away. You can't move. So now he kind of lost his move that he would have gotten for free. So because of that, and he doesn't want to hit this other one right now. So instead, he'll go with somebody who's not engaged, like maybe this guy. And this guy will come over here, and he wants to attack these ships. He can fly up to speed 4, and he goes here. But the problem is, while he is in range of attacking this ship, he's engaged, so he has to go for the squadron first. So he'll attack that X-Wing with 3 dice. He doesn't get swarm on this attack, because this X-Wing isn't engaged with another ship. So it's only going to be 2 damage. The X-Wing will take 2 damage and go down. And I have 1 more squadron I can activate with the Squadron Command. And here I'll go, we'll go over here. And we're far enough away that I'll take a shot on the front of the CR-90A. And because my ship is only got a blue die there, I'm going to go ahead and just roll 1 blue. And we rolled an accuracy, so that's no damage. If we had rolled a hit, though, we would have gotten a damage in on this capital ship. So now it's my turn to shoot with this Victory Star Destroyer. Now, this guy moved already, so the question is, did he move into medium range? Oh, no, he was going slow, so he's still just out of medium range, so he's still at long range. So I'm going to get to roll 3 red dice on the side of this guy. And we rolled an accuracy, a hit, and a crit. So we can send our accuracy to stop his 1 evade, and then he'll have 2 damage coming to the side. He can spend 1 of his braces and reduce that to 1 damage, and that'll send his shields down to 0 on the side. So now he has a very exposed side. And I wanted to talk a little bit about how we actually measure these shots, because there's a couple of things that we actually have to line up. So if you'll notice, each of these ships, and I'm going to take this off to show you the ship as a whole. There's 3 different things that we have to think about. For one, they have to be in range, and we've already talked about this being in range, right? And that's pretty self-explanatory. And when we measure range, we measure cardboard to cardboard. But the other thing is, if we're going to shoot out of our front, they have to be in arc. So I'm going to actually use this and line this up with the line to make sure that they can actually hit them. Because if somebody's not within this arc, then we can't hit them. But the third thing is we have to have line of sight. Every hull section has a dot here, and we have to have line of sight on them from our dot to their dot without it crossing one of their green lines. And so what that means is, while granted I could hit the side of the Victory Star Destroyer right there,
I'm going to move him a little bit so you can see. Maybe his side was weakened because he lost all his shields there. Well, granted, I can see, you know, I have range to the side and it's in arc, but because when we go from dot to dot, because that crosses his green line, that means I can't actually see his side of his ship. So those 3 things you need to check when you're measuring that. And okay, so I'm going to try and put it back basically the way it was. Next step is the Victory moved. Now he's going to shoot. Well, he actually, okay, there's other thing, because remember I said you can shoot twice. The other thing that he can do now is he can shoot out of his side arc. Now, when you shoot out of his side arc when you shoot at a squadron, you're going to use your anti-squadron dice. But the cool thing about an anti-squadron shot is you get to shoot, you get to use this battery armament, but you get to make a separate shot against every single enemy squadron that's in range out of that arc. So if, for example, there were 3 X-Wings over here, he could take a flak shot out of the side, we call it flak, and roll a single blue die, but against every single X-Wing. So that's meant to discourage a whole bunch of fighters from getting too close. But since there's only 1 right there, he will roll 1 blue die, and he gets an accuracy, so he missed. Again, when a squadron is involved, you're going to ignore the crits unless the squadron has bomber, but even so, he would still ignore the crit because ships don't count critical damage against squadrons either. So he missed that shot. Now he'll go ahead and move, and his speed is 2 right now. So he is going to get no clicks at the 1 and an extra click at the 2. One of the things some people do is they'll buy a second maneuver tool and then break off some of the extra pieces, so this way they don't lay everything down and knock all the squadrons over, because see, now I have a second one that I can just do an easier, shorter maneuver on. And he is going to do 1 click on the 2, and he'll move this way. Oh, look what happened. I bumped into some squadrons. I overlapped Hal Runner here. So when a ship bumps into a squadron, or any number of squadrons, what happens is the squadrons don't take damage. It's effectively like they got pushed out of the way. Think of like a jet ski or something floating on the ocean, and a cruise ship comes by. The jet ski just kind of gets pushed aside and doesn't actually get stepped on. So since he bumped this squadron, anytime a ship bumps a squadron, their opponent gets the place where all the squadrons they bumped are. But they have to be touching the ship. So now the rebel player can say, all right, well, this guy, maybe I want him here, but that would put him closer to me. So maybe I'll just put him behind you so he's far enough away. So we'll say you bumped him and he got pushed there. But that can work out advantageously, especially if you bump both of, like, if he were to move here and he hit both my squadrons and his, I could put his in the back and mine in the front, because you basically don't want to bump squadrons because your opponent gets to pick where they go. All right, next up is my Corellian Corvette, who is going to reveal a nav command. And my Corellian Corvette's going to, we're going to try and speed up. So I'm not going to take a token with that command. Now, one of the things is, if I was angled, let's say I was angled this way, I could have 2 shots, because I could have this side shot onto the front of the Star Destroyer, and I could shoot from my front. If this line kind of goes right through the middle, then you might have double arc. So I can shoot from the front to his front, and then the side to his front. So let's say that's the case, and that's a great thing that you want to be able to do. And since he is also within medium range, I can roll the blue dice that are in my armament as well. So we're going to do our front shot first, which is going to be 2 red and a blue. And we're going to roll an accuracy, a blank, and a crit. So we'll just say, since he's already spent, and this is what he has available, he's already spent one of his redirects. I'm going to use the accuracy to target this one, because I know a brace would do no good against 1 damage. So I'm going to target this one. So if he wants to redirect, he'll have to spend this one that's already been spent, and then it'll be gone for the rest of the game. So what he will do is he'll spend that with the accuracy, he'll target that one. The Imperial player doesn't want to permanently lose a redirect, so he'll just take the 1 damage to the front. And then out of the side shot, he only rolls a blue and a red. So we'll roll both of those, and that's just 1 hit. And that one he will redirect away and put it on the other side. And now he's spread his damage out amongst his shields, but hasn't taken any damage to hull yet. So now that the Corvette has gone, the Corvette also could have taken an anti-squadron shot out the side, but you only get 2 attacks, and usually it's better to attack ships than squadrons, but sometimes that depends on just how nasty the squadrons are. So now we're going to move. Now we're going to increase, we can increase to speed 4, and one of the things I could do is I could just swing around behind him. But another thing that I could do, if I didn't put my click right here, I would actually bump the Star Destroyer. So I'm going to show you how bumping works if two ships collide. What we would do is we would line this up, and I'd go as far forward as I can until our ships overlap, and it looks like I definitely can't make the 4. I can't make the 3 either, so I'll go down to where the 2 goes, and I'll try to lock it in there. Now, and so you just back up until you can actually place it. Since I have bumped both, my ship is going to take a face down damage for colliding, but so is the enemy ship. Both ships take damage in a bump. So that can be a great way to finish off a ship that's been shot but is still alive, that has 1 health left. Maybe you ram it and kill it that way. Although that hurts you too, so it's kind of something that you can only do so many times. So that's where we go. Now all ships have gone. Now we're going to enter the squadron phase. And when we enter the squadron phase, we're going to look at all the ships that have already gone. We're going to ignore them. So all the ones that have the red, since we're on a blue turn right now, all the blue ships would go. So that means we can make this guy go. Now he can only move or shoot. And we're going to start with first player will activate 2 of their squadrons first, and then the other player will activate 2 of their squadrons first. Since the rebel player went first, that means 2 of his X-Wings are going to go first. This one right here is going to go ahead and take a shot at this TIE fighter. Now he can't move because he's engaged, and he can't move and shoot because this is the squadron phase. You only get one or the other, not both. So we'll roll 4 blue dice, and we're going to get 2 hits. That brings this TIE fighter down to 1, but he's still alive. Now Luke Skywalker is not close enough to shoot anybody because squadrons can only shoot at distance 1. So he'll go ahead and move right up here in front of the Star Destroyer to try and do some damage on it next turn. Luke's problem is, though, that he can't shoot right now because it's the squadron phase. He can only move or shoot. Can't do both. And that's going to conclude a turn, and we'll just keep going back and forth. The game is going to be 6 turns. At the end of the round, though, you are going to refresh everything. So we're going to flip over all of our exhausted defense tokens, and if we had any cards that required to be tapped or expended, we could flip those back over as well. And so now all of our defense tokens are going to be green again, and we're going to start the next turn and start by setting all the dials. Well, actually, after the rest of the TIE fighters go. So all the squadrons, you're going to make sure all the squadrons have gone, so maybe these 2 would move. And then once we get them all, then we end the round. We're going to go to the next round. So let's say if this was round 3, we would go to round 4, and so on and so forth. I also wanted to show you guys some of the different ships that are available. This is not all of them, but this does represent some different basic types. So the Victory Star Destroyer, if you'll notice, had a larger base than the 2 ships that came with the Rebels. The 2 ships that came with the Rebels are what's called small base ships. And this is about the smallest base for a capital ship you're going to see. Any ship that has this base size is going to be counted as a small ship. Okay, even these ones that have 2 ships on them. These ones that have 2 ships on them, those are called flotillas. And while they're also a small-based ship, the fact that they're a flotilla means a couple of special things. For one, if they happen to collide with another ship, only the flotillas will take damage. Regular ships that are not flotillas don't take damage when they collide with a flotilla, whether they're being rammed or they're doing the ramming. So flotillas definitely don't want to bump. But the other thing is, and this is an FAQ errata, is that flotillas cannot have a commander on them. You cannot put your commander on a flotilla. It has to be on a small, medium, or large ship that's not a flotilla. So, the Empire also has small ships that are available, and as you'll see, they're the same base size. But there are also large ships available, and that's your Imperial Star Destroyer and some of your big Mon Calamari ships. They're on a much larger base. There aren't specifically special rules for these, but some cards will call out base sizes as well. The Rebels currently only have 1 medium ship, but we're hoping to get more soon, and that's the Assault Frigate Mark II. But yeah, some cards will reference ships by ship size type, and that's why you need to know the different types of ship sizes that are available. And the only other thing I want to talk about is obstacles. You can put down obstacles on the map. There's rules for setting them up, and basically people will go back and forth putting them in the deployment zone, and they just have to be distance 1 from each other. But there's different types of obstacles. You're only going to get 1 station. The station is actually a good type of obstacle. And that station has the special rule that if a ship lands on it, it can repair 1 damage card. And if a squadron lands on it, it can heal 1 damage. So that's cool. It doesn't repair shields, though. It's a common misconception. The stations do not repair shields. You also have these debris, and the debris basically will cause the ship that lands on it to take 2 damage to any one side. And so if a Star Destroyer lands on it, they might take 2 damage to the rear or 2 damage to the front. It's important to know that that can go to shields, but if there's no shields, or if you've only got 1 damage on every side, at least one of those damage is going to make it through that shield. And then the last type is the asteroid field. When the ship lands on asteroids, they take a face-up damage. And so you're going to take 1 damage card, flip it face up, and assign it straight to the ship. That's going to completely bypass shields. So even if you're at full strength on shields, you can still take a face-up damage, so that can be catastrophic. Squadrons don't have any effect when they land on these tokens, but all of these tokens do obstruct attacks. And obstruction is an important thing. If there's a ship, ships can obstruct attacks as well as obstacles. And what that means is if you're tracing your line and it goes through an obstacle from dot to dot, then it's going to count as an obstructed shot. Now what that means is when you're gathering your dice from your armament to roll them, before you roll your dice you have to remove one of your choice. Now this becomes a problem if you only have 1 die. Like for example, this Santi only has 1 blue die in its front arc. So if he wanted to attack right here, he wouldn't even be able to roll that 1 die. So he could not even make the attack. You have to have at least 1 die in your armament after obstructions to even make the attack. So that is about it, guys. Thank you so much for watching this. If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe and leave a comment. If you have questions, definitely check out Krabok.com. I have a big section on Armada as well as other games where I have a lot of guides, tutorials, list building, a lot of stuff is there. You'll get a lot more in the future when it comes to all your video updates and news updates and strategy and bat reps, all of that stuff. So make sure you subscribe and check out that. Check out my website. Check out my Discord. There's a lot of hangouts in there. A lot of people just do casual questions and answers and things like that in there. But definitely, I appreciate all the support. Thank you guys so much for all the support. I hope if you haven't tried this game out yet, I hope you do. I hope you love it. It's one of my favorite games on the planet. There's so much depth and it's so beautiful seeing these giant ships move on down space and kind of move to engage all the other ships. I love it. It's so much fun to play. Even if you lose, it's a blast. Thank you guys so much for watching and have a great day.